October 1974, Wyoming. Hunter Carl Higdon vanishes without a trace. When he's found, he tells a bizarre tale that is truly out of this world. Welcome back to the Common Anomaly podcast. I'm your host, Stuart James. Joining me today is Clayton James. How's it going, brother?
It's going good. I feel rested and refreshed, and I'm really relieved just to be doing a regular episode this week.
Me too. Yes, back to our normal routine. No, that's great. Happy Halloween. Happy November 1st. How was your Halloween? Did you get trick-or-treaters?
No, I live in an apartment building. So.
Well, you could still get... Aren't there kids that live in an apartment building?
I mean, yeah, I know there are. Hear them running around screaming in the halls all the time, but I've lived in that building for 10 years and never got a single trick-or-treater.
Oh, yeah? We had a really busy night. Normally, because Phoebe was such a barker, she would just bark her head off the second anybody came near the door. Mm-hmm. So for the past 15, 16 years, we just always shut up all the windows and blinds and pretended like we weren't home. No decorations, nothing, you know?
Do you put up a sign that says, go away?
Go away. Yeah.
No children.
Almost practically that's what our strategy has been, yeah, just because it's just not worth it, right? But, Phoebe's gone now, and Xena has a totally different attitude. She's just happy to see anybody come to the door. So for the first time, we had pumpkins and, decorations, and we had the lights on, and we had loads of kids. And coming quite late at night. I think everybody waited till after the baseball game to take their kids out, because we were getting kids right till like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. So that was kind of wild. I'm eager to dig into this story. This is kind of a classic of the alien abduction genre, I guess. And we've never covered an alien abduction story. And I've been dying to, because it's a really fascinating area of research for me that's above and beyond just the UFO phenomenon as a whole. What did you think about this one? Because I remember we looked at this case when we were looking a couple weeks back at doing the Wendigo episode, and it was a toss-up between this story and the Swift Runner story. And you wanted to go with Swift Runner first, and this was kind of our backup.
Swift Runner, the Wendigo story, seemed more Halloween themed, you know?
Yeah.
It was a good episode for October.
Yeah, and it's a really good story. It's one I've been really eager to dig into for a long time, so I'm glad we did that one. But this one is more just a really fascinating and fun case. One of the more credible ones, if you ask me, in terms of abduction lore.
I was really excited to look at this story because it takes place in Wyoming, and I've spent a lot of time in Wyoming over the past couple of years. Shout out to the people of Wyoming, you know. Thank you for always making me feel so welcome in your beautiful state. We've got a few listeners in Wyoming too, so
excellent.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to going down there again soon.
I would love to visit that part of the continent at some time. It sounds like it's really beautiful, and you always come back with the most amazing photos. You're an amateur photographer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like a great place. Do you know this area where this case happened? Is that somewhere that's familiar
I
to you?
don't specifically know this area. I've been actually not far from there, because remember I was telling you on my last visit, me and Susie went to visit that historic prison.
Yeah.
And they closed early and they locked us in.
Yeah.
So that was in Laramie, and this story takes place just south of Rawlins, Wyoming, which is about an hour and a half's drive west of Laramie. So I was actually not far from where this story takes place. But I've never been to Rawlins specifically, or the Medicine Bow National Forest. We actually almost ended up going to Medicine Bow, because I was really eager to find new places to go and take photographs. And we were thinking about going to this place called Aspen Alley, which is in the Medicine Bow National Forest. We didn't end up going. We'll probably go there eventually at some point.
Yeah.
I hear it's really beautiful. It looks really beautiful in pictures.
Great. Cool. Yeah, well, before we just dig in here, I did want to take a minute to do a shout out as well. Not a specific shout out, but just we got a whole bunch of really nice positive feedback this week from multiple sources. I got phone calls from old friends. We got really great messages to us on YouTube, and it just was a really good week for people getting in touch with us and saying they're really enjoying the show. A friend left me a message with his DMT trip story because he listened to the DMT episode. That was really funny. I'm not going to relate it because I haven't got permission for that here, but I might get this story in more detail from him at another time. But yeah, it was just a really good week for that. I feel like the channel's doing really well. We're getting a lot of positive vibes coming our way, and we're trying to hit, like, our subscriber count on YouTube is going great, and we're really trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year. We're well on our way. So if you're an audio listener and you're maybe not following on YouTube, you've missed some of our YouTube content, please go there and help us out. Subscribe, tell your friends, try and get us to that 1,000 marker before the end of the year. We'd really appreciate it. And like, we are focusing on YouTube a lot just because that's where the growth is happening. Not just for us, but for podcasts in general. Just the audio platforms aren't structured the same way. It's really hard to grow organically, but you can do it on YouTube. So that's kind of where we're putting our energy. So if you're not following us on YouTube yet, please go and subscribe. Help us out. But that's the end of my plug.
Yeah. And if you're on YouTube and you subscribed to us recently and you're confused that this episode is audio only, we'll be doing more videos in the future. I'm just tired.
We had to take a break. Yeah, we had to take a break because the workflow for doing it week after week, that was too much of a grind. So we gotta figure out how we fold in the video content. We're not really sure how it's gonna work, but the videos have been awesome, and the feedback on them has been great.
I'm new at the video thing, but I am getting better. And you actually made like a little short one this week.
Because
I thought that was great.
Yeah, I didn't want to leave everything on your plate, and I had no idea how you were doing this, and I wanted to learn. So yeah, you kind of pointed me towards a software, and I kind of just challenged myself to create some kind of segment or short for Halloween. Before Halloween, so I did the best I could. I know it's not up to your quality, but hopefully everyone
great.
enjoyed.
I think you should do them all from now on.
I bet you do.
We should do more shorts like that in the future.
You know what I thought I would do, because we don't have a video for this episode, is maybe I would challenge myself to make a video for this episode. Obviously, I won't have it ready by tonight, but I can work on it, and maybe in a week or two we'll have a video that we can release for this episode.
Yeah.
I don't know, something like that. Or I'll cut it down into another short or something, a segment of it. Yeah. But anyway,
let's get into the story.
Let's get into this story. Okay, great. So where are we? We're in October 1974 in Wyoming, and we're following the story of a man, Carl Higdon. He's about 40 years old at the time, working as an oil driller. And so he found himself on October 25th, unexpectedly with a day off work. And so he decides to go elk hunting. So he gets his 7mm Magnum rifle and heads south towards McCarty Canyon. It's around 40 miles south of where he lived in the small city of Rawlins. So he's heading into this area known as the Medicine Bow National Forest. He parks his pickup truck on a hill, and he actually bumps into a game warden that just happens to be in the area.
Yeah.
And I believe another hunter as well.
Well, he actually, on his way into Medicine Bow, he actually encountered three people. He encountered the game warden, chatted with him for a bit. Yep. He also found these two fellow hunters, and their truck was stuck in the mud. It was quite muddy, and he stopped by and he gave them a hand getting their truck unstuck. And it was them that actually pointed him towards this very specific hunting spot. They're like, "Oh, you got to check out this spot. Lots of elk there. It's a great spot."
Yeah.
And that's how he ended up going to where what happened to him.
Yeah. Okay. And these might sound like a little superfluous details, but I really did want to cover that he did bump into some other people. Yep. He bumped into other hunters. He bumped into game wardens. And I think that's really important because at this point in his journey, he's showing no signs of being disoriented or confused. He's aware, cognizant of what's going on around him, clear-headed state of mind.
Yeah.
So I think that's important as the story progresses here. So it was around 4 p.m. when Carl began his hunt, and he walked about a mile into the forest from where, and then he eventually finds a clearing, and he spots some elk a couple 100 feet away from him.
Yeah.
So, he takes position, steadies his rifle, aiming towards the largest male elk of the group, and he pulls the trigger. And to his surprise, there's no sound. He sees the bullet exit the barrel of his rifle in slow motion.
Mm-hmm.
And it travels about 50 yards ahead of him.
Yeah.
And impacts something that he can't see.
And drops to the ground. Yeah.
Immediately, high strangeness. This is very weird. Like, what's happening here? So, of course, he kind of gets his wits about him and goes to investigate. And he goes and he picks up the bullet. He goes searching for the bullet anyway, from where it was impacted. And he realizes that there's this transparent cube, basically, or box structure sitting on the ground in front of him. Supposedly what his bullet must have impacted. But it's totally clear. Now that he's close up, he can kind of see that there's something there, right? And then he gets that familiar sensation we all know of being watched.
Yeah.
Like something else is in the area. So he turns around and he's confronted with this being, this strange alien creature floating above the snow. And it just starts slowly floating towards him. Do you want to talk about this creature?
Yeah. So I should make a note here that about here in the story is where his initial recollection ends. He remembers firing the gun, seeing the bullet travel in slow motion, then he blacks out. He awakens at 11:30 p.m. He's being shaken awake by his friends who have come searching for him.
Yeah.
And he has complete amnesia. He doesn't even know who he is. He doesn't know who his friends are. He doesn't know what he's doing there. They take him to the Carbon County Memorial Hospital.
Oh, well, you're jumping way ahead on me.
No. I'm getting back to it. Don't worry. They take him back to the hospital, and he slowly regains his memories. He remembers who he is. He remembers who his wife is. And he tells this story about going into the woods, firing the bullet, blacking out, and then waking up in the truck. Now, everything in between here was revealed through hypno-regression.
Well, I'll challenge you on that because there is retellings of pieces of information from the time in between as he was coming around, as he was gaining his memory back. He said certain things to medical personnel, to his wife, that predate the hypnosis regression.
Little bits and pieces.
Yeah. And I think that's important.
Yeah.
That's critical. But anyway, let's rewind the tape back to his encounter.
His encounter with this alien. So he describes this alien as being a humanoid with kind of oddly textured yellowish skin.
Yeah.
And it's got two antennae coming from its head, and it's got kind of hair. He describes the hair as being very straw-like, sticking straight
like
up.
Like the bristles of a broom.
Yeah, in little tufts. And he's wearing something he describes as being like a wetsuit.
Yeah, like a black scuba suit.
Yeah, like a black skin-tight outfit with kind of what looks like a little utility belt with a 6-pointed star on it.
Yeah, like a Star of David.
Yeah, on his arms, this alien, on one of his hands is actually not a hand, it's like a little mechanical drill instead of a hand. And
or a cone-shaped thing. And it's not clear whether this is his actual appendage or it's a device that fits over a hand. We never really find out, right?
Yeah. Actually, it was funny. A lot of people, like, drawings have been made of this alien, like, through...
Well, and he himself, later, I think at the hospital, like, his wife gave him a pen and pad of paper and said, write down everything you remember, sketch, and he had sketched this creature.
Yeah. So, a lot of people actually describe this alien as looking like Butthead from Beavis and Butthead.
Actually, I've got the sketch right here, and you're right. You're kind of right. He does a little look like.
I've heard people say that's not actually what I thought when I first saw it. I actually thought that the little drill hand.
Yeah.
I've seen that one.
Yeah,
the little drill hand and everything that kind of reminded me of Megalon
Megalon.
From Godzilla versus Megalon.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's like a monster that lives underground, and he gets upset by all the humanity's nuclear tests, and
Right.
he comes up to the surface and he try and destroy humanity, and Godzilla fights him.
Yeah.
Teamed up with like a giant robot named Jet Jaguar.
Okay.
He almost looks like a combination of Megalon and Jet Jaguar.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of Jet Jaguar. The only character in one of those movies that had his own theme song. It was great. It was like Jet Jaguar, Yatta Jaguar. Anyway, I love those movies. Anyway,
Yeah, that was a very
interesting
crazy tangent.
Interesting fact, though, that movie was actually released like 2 years before this instance, so keep that in mind.
Okay.
Anyway, very bizarre looking alien. The most bizarre looking alien I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's
And
pretty crazy.
This alien basically walks up to Carl Higdon.
He doesn't walk. He floats.
Yeah,
Floats above
yeah.
the ground. That's an important point.
He floats towards him, and
He speaks telepathically
Yeah,
to him. Yeah, his
and-
lips don't move.
this is a very odd conversation they have. He basically says, "How are you?"
Yeah, yeah.
and
Very cordial greeting.
and Carl says, "Pretty good."
Yeah.
He's trying to play it cool. And this alien, he
Ask him if he's hungry, right?
Yeah.
At this point, he says,
Yeah.
hey, are you hungry?
Well, he says, "Your sun burns us." And then he says, "Are you hungry?" And Carl says, "Kinda."
Yeah.
And he'd skipped lunch that day, so he's like, "Kinda." And this alien offers him a bottle of pills,
Yeah.
which he just floats
Well,
over to him.
He describes a little packet or whatever. In my mind, I'm picturing like a pack of Altoids, Altoid mints kind of thing. And he opens up this case, and it's got 4 little pills in it. And he says, the alien offers him one of these pills, and the pill floats towards him.
Yeah.
And he takes it. And I guess that's food. That's meant to be food.
It will sustain him for 3 days, this alien says.
Yeah. And then they offer to take him on a ride on their spacecraft.
This alien says to him, "Would you like to come with me?" And Carl says, "Sure."
Yeah, yeah. And it said that because he was interested in UFOs and had previously decided earlier in his life that if he ever had the opportunity that he would go.
Yeah.
Right? But also, Carl was not one to pop pills, especially from a strange alien. But he very readily agreed and swallowed this pill almost without any forethought or afterthought about what was going on. So again, we have this idea that Carl is being mentally manipulated. He's being influenced in some way, almost like you could say hypnotized.
Yeah. So
his actions and his behaviors are maybe not what he would normally do, but he's being influenced by some force.
yeah. So Carl Higdon, he agrees to go with this alien aboard his spacecraft.
Yeah.
Which is a transparent cube.
Yeah. And then the alien points his coned appendage at Carl, and you just pop. He appears inside the spacecraft.
Yeah. Now the interesting about this cube is it is larger on the inside than it is on the outside.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because he describes
on the outside it's about the size of an SUV.
Yeah.
If it's the same transparent box, if that's what we're to believe that was the spacecraft.
Yeah,
but when he's inside, it's huge.
When he's inside, he's there. His little alien friend is there. 2 other aliens are there with him, and the entire herd of elk he was stalking is there in suspended animation.
Yeah. And he even says to one of the aliens, because now there's several aliens there.
Yeah.
There's the one he met in the forest, but then there's a couple others. And he says, "Hey, you've got my elk."
Yeah.
And I guess the alien he's speaking to just kind of shrugs his shoulders like, "Yeah, what are you going to do about it?"
Yeah. So the spacecraft, it's kind of like a seamless one-piece spacecraft. There's no obvious windows, but the walls are kind of transparent.
Yeah, you can see all around.
As the spacecraft lifts off, he can see kind of the Wyoming countryside, kind of getting further away from him.
And he spots his truck, right?
He
can
spots
see his truck.
He spots his truck, and he's looking down at it, and this alien kind of makes a wave with his arm, and the truck disappears.
Pop. Gone. Yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, this alien he's been talking to introduces himself as Ausso-1.
Yeah.
Says they come to the Earth to basically to hunt.
That's right.
Because their planet is incapable of supporting any animal life
Yeah,
anymore.
their oceans have turned toxic.
Yeah.
And there's no fish. And yeah, so I guess they visit other planets in the galaxy to search for fish and animal life that they process into their food pills.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So they're also hunters of a sort.
Yeah, and they come to Earth and they capture animals either to directly turn into food or to breed as livestock or whatever.
Which, not nice, by the way, coming to our planet and poaching our livestock. Like,
Yeah.
who do you think you are, right?
There's a couple other ways these aliens are really rude, which we'll get into later.
Yeah.
Anyway, Carl Higdon, he's taken to a planet that Ausso-1 describes as being 160,000 light miles from the Earth.
Yeah.
Not light years.
Not like years.
Light miles is the phrase he uses, which I've got a theory on that.
Okay.
I'll talk about later.
My initial thought is just like, well, that's maybe an imperfect translation. Light
Maybe.
years is like a term. That's an Earth term, right?
Yeah.
So, what a light mile is might just be an imperfect translation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway,
Anyway, he's taken to this planet. He describes the journey as taking just a few minutes
yeah.
before they arrive on this planet, and he describes this very barren
Okay.
kind of.
And now I'm not clear on this because maybe the source I was looking at for the story didn't cover this, or maybe I accidentally deleted it as I was kind of combing through notes. But I didn't necessarily get the description. I was a little confused of whether he's describes himself as being on a planet or being in some other kind of structure that could be like another mothership somewhere or an O'Neill cylinder.
Oh no, he's on a planet.
He's on a planet.
He's
Okay.
on a planet. He describes it as being kind of rocky and barren and desert-like,
Okay.
and he describes like being transported out of the craft. And he's on this planet, and he says the light there hurts his eyes.
Yeah.
One of the aliens says that like our sun hurts them in the same way.
Yeah.
And burns them, and that's why they have to wear these suits. And anyway, he just describes it as being very barren, except he can see this huge tower off in the distance that he says looks vaguely like the Space Needle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
which is interesting.
Yeah, and he actually sees several other human beings kind of milling about and talking
Yeah. So
at the base of this tower.
Yeah. And the first alien who introduced himself as Ausso-1, right? I'm not sure if we mentioned that already.
Yeah, yeah.
But Ausso-1 does say that they've been visiting Earth for a long time.
Yeah.
The suggestion there is that they've been picked up other human beings as well and brought them back to their home planet.
Are they eating them?
Well, that's a good question. Maybe we can explore that later. They do describe themselves as hunters, looking for foodstuffs. But, I mean, why would you bring living human beings to inhabit your own planet if you're just keeping them for food? Unless they bring them there as livestock.
Yeah,
just
breeding
to keep
stock.
like cattle. Anyway, I digress.
Anyway, so Carl Higdon, he says he is basically levitated into, an opening or an entrance.
Yeah, like an examination
tower.
room.
Yeah. And he's taken into what he describes as kind of a medical examination room.
Yeah.
And a little panel slides out of the wall and scans him.
Yeah. Well, presumably it scans him. He can't tell. He just knows this kind of surface comes out of the wall in front of him and then recedes again. And then the alien comes out and says, yeah, you're not what you're looking for. We'll take you home.
Yeah, you're not what we need. We'll take you back.
Yeah.
So they immediately
we can imagine some kind of X-ray or a scan like that.
Yeah.
Medical scan, yeah.
So they take Carl Higdon back on this transparent cube spacecraft, and
they pass through a dark void.
yeah,
It's described.
and actually on the journey back, Ausso-1 was actually commenting on Carl Higdon's 9mm Magnum rifle. He said he was very interested in such a primitive weapon, and he'd like to keep it, but
like a souvenir.
Yeah, he said they had a law that forbids that, and he's not allowed to keep it. So you can have it back.
Yeah. So I just wanted to take a side comment here on this point because I was very struck in the recounting of this story of just, we said they're rude in many ways, but they're conducting their conversations with Carl in a very human manner.
Yeah.
right? Like they're jumping into conversation and making comments based on his observations about the sun, how our sun impacts them, how their food different from ours. So they seem, I mean, obviously they have some telepathic abilities because they're not speaking directly verbally, they're speaking telepathically, so maybe they can just read your mind. But it seems like their ability to converse is very human-like.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's just because they're similar to us, because he describes them as humanoid, or is it because they've had so much interaction with human beings that they actually know how to converse in a casual way with our kind?
Well, apparently they've been visiting Earth for a long time.
What do you think about that? What do you think about the fact that we have many cities, many of our major metropolitan centers around the world, all build kind of towers that look like that? Like our Calgary Tower looks like the Seattle Space Needle. And
Kinda.
There's what's the one in Toronto, right? But there's many, right?
Yeah.
There's many towers that look like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of a theme,
I never
right?
really thought about that. But
Do you think there's a connection there, or is that just coincidence?
well,
How integrated into our civilization could these aliens be? Or maybe I'm just connecting dots. I don't know. What do you think?
well, I had a theory. I wasn't going to talk about it yet, but let's talk about it now anyway.
Okay.
This whole 160,000 light miles thing. So
Sure.
light years is a measure of distance. It's how long light travels in a year.
Yeah.
Now, if you
In one of our years.
yeah,
Right?
I thought light miles. So light years is a measure of distance. Could light miles be a measure of time? And that it's not actually an alien planet, and these aren't actually aliens. This is Earth, and this is us from the future.
Oh, hey. Interesting. Interesting.
But I did the math, and 160,000 light miles, by that definition,
Yeah.
would only be like a few microseconds.
Right.
But yeah, it was just a thought I had that maybe these are actually time travelers.
Yeah, that's a cool idea. That's a cool idea. Yeah, because, I mean, they have very humanoid features.
Yeah, and you'd think life evolving on an alien planet, what are the odds?
Yeah.
I don't know
And if
that
you-
it would look even vaguely humanoid.
Yeah, and if you could time travel, what would be the harm to jump back to the past to get food, right?
Yeah, grab just a few animals
Yeah.
or something that won't impact history too much.
Yeah.
You know.
Interesting idea.
Anyway,
Interesting idea.
that was one of my little theories that popped into
No, I
my
like
head
that.
as I was researching this, because I got really fixated on this light miles thing. Like, who says that?
Yeah. But anyway, so for whatever reason, Carl is rejected by these aliens.
Yeah.
He doesn't fit the bill for whatever they're looking for. That's never explained.
Mm-hmm.
And they drive him back home, tell him how they'd really like to steal his rifle, but they're not
Not allowed.
And then they're just like, we'll be seeing you. And then he finds himself floating back down to the ground in the forest where he originated.
Yeah.
And as he's on his way down, like floating through the air, he kind of hits a tree branch and then a face of a rock and kind of has a hard fall down to the ground.
Yeah.
Which I found hilarious, for one. These aliens with all this technology that can teleport him to the other side of the galaxy, supposedly, or to the future, and they can't give him a gentle landing. Like, they gotta roughly drop him down onto the forest floor so he comes tumbling down a hillside and like hurts his shoulder.
I actually found that particular point very telling.
Yeah.
Very telling.
Well, it shows a disregard
Yeah.
for his welfare, for one.
But it's actually, because this story sounds so ridiculous. That was my first thought. This story sounds so ridiculous and campy. But it's interesting because it ties into a few other things, which I'll get into. But it also is one of the few alien abduction stories that has physical evidence to back it up.
Yeah.
And let's talk about him just being plopped down on the ground hard.
Yeah.
Okay, how familiar are you with cattle mutilations?
Pretty darn familiar.
Okay, are you familiar with something called the falling livestock phenomenon?
Yeah.
Where cattle are found dead.
Yeah,
like
but
in
their
a
legs
field,
are broken.
But
right?
their legs are broken,
Yeah.
their chests have been crushed, the ground has this huge indentation on it.
Yeah.
As if the animal had been dropped from a great height, but there's no possible thing they could have fallen off of it. They're in the middle of a field.
Yeah.
This is what I mean by these aliens being very rude. What if they're taking livestock and kind of scanning them, being like, not what we're looking for.
Dumping them back down.
Popped back down on the ground with no regard.
Yeah.
It really reminded me of that.
Yeah.
And the
it's
same
an interesting
happened.
parallel.
Yeah, and the same happened with his truck. This is part of the physical evidence.
Yeah, this is a really cool detail. So his truck is found later, not where he had parked it, but stuck in a mud pit.
Yeah.
And the really crazy detail is that there's no tracks. There is no tire tracks of his truck leading into this mud pit. How do you get your truck stuck in mud without leaving tracks?
Yeah, and they actually said that the two-wheel drive on his truck would not have been able to actually even get to that location.
Yeah.
It was a really muddy day. There were no tracks. It was as if his truck had just been dropped there from above.
But this is one of those high strangeness things, and not only for that just not computing or making sense in a logical way, but why did they take his truck at all?
I don't know.
Why take his truck and plop it down again with him later? Is it to leave no evidence of his disappearance? Do you think?
Maybe.
Just purely for that fact? I guess that could be a motivation. But it's like, if there's that little regard for him and his welfare and the activities of human beings, why would you even bother taking his truck? I don't get it.
I don't know. Maybe they didn't want to be wasteful. A lot of folks, when they go hunting, they'll insist on using every part of that animal. Leave nothing to waste.
Right.
So we're going to take this guy. We're going to take his truck. I mean, I'm sure they could get something out of examining his truck, or maybe they just wanted to keep it as a souvenir. I mean, they were very interested in his primitive weapon.
Yeah, that's true. So who knows what the motivation was? At least they were kind enough to return it.
Yeah, they decided they couldn't use him for whatever they were going to use him for, so they just returned everything.
Yeah.
The guy, the truck, the gun, everything.
Yeah. Okay, so Carl has a hard landing. He's really disoriented and confused, but he manages to stumble around, find his way back to his vehicle. And he's got like a little CB radio that's on in his vehicle, and he can hear voices coming from it. So even in his very disoriented state, he manages to get on this radio and reach out to this voice. Turns out to be his boss.
Yeah.
I got the name somewhere, like Roy, maybe Roy Fleming or something like that. But it's his boss on the CB radio. And his boss is asking him, where are you? And like, who is this? What's your name? And he's so disoriented. He's so confused. He can't even deliver those details. He just states that he's really cold and that he's in a truck with a weird stick in the middle.
Yeah.
And the weird stick he's referring to is the stick shift of his truck.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's just to illustrate how disoriented he is.
Yeah. And he apparently kept repeating, my elk, they took my elk.
Yeah, that's right. They took my elk. They took my elk. Yeah, and so a search party is already looking for him.
Yeah, because his wife was getting worried by this point. His wife, Marjorie, she had started making phone calls earlier that evening, being like, he's not back. We're like, this is not like him at all. Where is he? You got to go looking for him. So his friends were already searching the forest for him.
Yeah. And that's right. And they find him. Obviously, his shoulder is hurt, and he's very out of it. He's very disoriented. He's very confused, and he seems not to remember who he is or basic details of his life. He doesn't recognize his wife.
Yeah. And
his wife, when they find him and recover him as they're transporting him to hospital, she asks him, like, did you shoot an elk? And he just says, they took my elk. They took my elk. But in this weird sing-songy cadence.
Yeah.
Really bizarre stuff. And then they're taking him to the hospital, and he's questioning the medical staff as they're treating him and bringing him into examination, saying, where's your black suit? Aren't you afraid of the sun? That sort of thing, right? And where's my pills? Where's the pills that float to you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it's at that point where they're like, okay, something's really seriously wrong with this man. And his wife gives him the pad of paper and a pencil and says, just write down everything you can remember.
Yeah.
And we get this sketch of this Ausso-1. And he also writes the word enders. Now, you might immediately think that's maybe a reference to their species or something. But I guess one of the sheriffs pointed out that one of the other hunters in the area was named Ender, I guess was their name.
Okay.
So it's quite possible that that's maybe one of the other hunters he had interacted with earlier in the day, and it's just a random detail he pulled out.
Yeah. So they bring in this psychologist. He's the one who conducted like the hypnotic regression sessions.
Yeah.
His name was Ronald Leo Sprinkle.
Yeah. Dr.
Great
Leo
name.
Sprinkle.
Dr. Sprinkle.
Yeah.
And he was out of the University of Wyoming in Laramie. And I should say about Ronald Sprinkle, he was very specifically interested in working with UFO abductees.
Yes.
He
yes.
was very specifically interested in that.
He was well credentialed.
Yeah.
And supposedly a very good practitioner. But I will say in general, I generally take regression hypnosis counts or witness testimony with a huge grain of salt.
Yeah, and that's why I bring up this Dr. Sprinkle, because this is a hypnotic regression being conducted by a man as well credentialed as he is,
Yeah.
who has a great deal of interest in this specific topic and
That's right. And
might be looking for a specific outcome.
That's right.
In
And
his hypnotic regression.
And that's why I say a grain of salt, because the problem with hypnotic regression is the person leading the regression can influence what gets pulled out of it. They could ask maybe questions that are too leading.
Yeah.
And you can kind of implant false memories potentially doing this kind of work. So it is a little dubious, to be sure. But what I find interesting is that the granular details, I mean, big chunks of what is told about Carl's story, there's elements, like you say, there's physical elements and stuff he said before the regression happened, just after he was recovered.
Yeah.
And we do know something happened to him.
Yeah.
He disappeared for a period of time. We know he was totally with it and lucid hours before, and hours after he was in a very different state.
Yeah.
He was injured. There was the physical details around his truck. So something happened to this man in that period of time. And the details that Dr. Leo Sprinkle pulled out of the regression do align with the other circumstantial evidence supporting the story.
Yeah. There is one other physical piece of evidence tied to this case. In Carl Higdon's jacket pocket was found a bullet, a 9mm bullet from his
casing?
Magnum. No, an actual
casing.
slug
Oh,
that he'd picked up off the ground at some point. Now this
Right.
this bullet was deformed and pretty much turned inside out in a pretty extreme way, as if it had impacted something very hard at point blank range.
Yeah.
And ballistics experts have actually looked at this bullet, and they're actually baffled on what could have done this to a bullet in that environment, because there was nothing in that environment.
like just
out in the
hitting
woods.
tree bark or a rock or something wouldn't deform the bullet so severely.
Yeah. The only thing in that environment that could have potentially deformed a bullet in that way was the engine block on his truck, because the engine block would have cast iron components in it. And if he had shot the engine block of a very specific, like in a very specific place at point blank range, that's the only thing that could have deformed the bullet that way, but no such damage was found to the truck.
Okay.
And like it wouldn't have done that damage to that kind of deformation to the bullet if he'd hit a tree or a rock or anything else.
Yeah.
It would have to be like solid cast iron at point blank range.
Yeah. Interesting. So it is important to note that, I mean, this activity did kind of continue through his life. He was never abducted again.
No.
But there is a story, it's deeper. I'm kind of losing track of things in my notes, but I can recall from memory that one night, Carl's at home with Marjorie, and he just kind of, in a semi out of it trance-like state, suggests that, they should go for a ride. Mm-hmm. And he takes her for a drive into the country. And Marjorie and Carl both see this kind of glowing green cone-shaped craft looking like kind of like an upside-down ice cream cone.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Sorry, it's just I was searching for the word. But anyway, and then Carl comments, darn it, I'm late. I was supposed to be here a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
It's too late, and now the craft is leaving, right? As if he had been kind of beckoned back to be collected again. perhaps for another abduction, but he was just running behind and they took off without him, sort of thing. And so there's several, and he claims that Ausso-1 is still in kind of periodic, once in a while, telepathic communication with him. And it seems that no matter the distance or where they are, Ausso-1 can kind of telepathically connect with him.
Yeah.
So, from time to time.
Dr. Sprinkle, he did make the comment about this case that Carl's recollections and kind of how they come to him in kind of fragments and in flashbacks is very much looks like a trauma response.
Yeah.
Like he's got some sort of post-traumatic stress around this.
Yeah, and that would align with his state when he was recovered as well. Yeah, because, I think Marjorie, there was a description at one point, Marjorie tried to put a blanket around him and he jerked away and was like, don't touch me, don't touch me.
Yeah.
Kind of freaked out.
Yeah, Carl actually, he never wanted to make a big deal of this story. He never sought any kind of fame or notoriety or monetary gain out of this story. Yeah. Actually, like one of the actual very few kind of public things he did with this story is he was actually invited in 1978. I'm not sure if you had a chance to watch this. You should. It's really good. In 1978, they did a segment of the show In Search Of, hosted by Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah, I found it. I didn't go and watch it, though.
Oh, it's great. You should watch it. But yeah, Leonard Nimoy in the 70s, he hosted this show with kind of like these bizarre true life stories.
Yeah.
And often they get the actual people involved to come back and like do the reenactments on the show.
Oh, I do have to watch that.
Yeah, and Carl Higdon, he actually participated in this. He went out and he participated in filming the reenactment. And they say like during the filming of this, Carl would just break down in tears. Like he couldn't do this. Like he was remembering something horrible.
Yeah.
And after that, he really didn't do anything. He didn't do interviews. He didn't do anything like that. He said he didn't care. He didn't want to be famous. Actually, he's quoted as saying, "It don't mean a hill of beans to me whether anybody believes it or not. I know what happened to me." And he just went back to work. He just went back to work as the foreman of his,
and that's
his team.
That speaks to the credibility as well for me. Like, this was a normal guy before. He never had any signs of mental illness before, other than what he experienced around those events afterwards as well. Mm-hmm. It's important to note, as this is another element we didn't quite get to, we maybe skipped over too quickly. But when he was examined, when he was recovered, they did x-rays and all manner of exams.
Yeah.
And they found that aside from, his shoulder being hurt in the fall, he was totally fine. But there was scarring on his lungs from a previous case of tuberculosis, which had actually kind of miraculously healed.
Yeah, so he actually had a couple of medical ailments. He had the scarring on his lungs.
Yeah.
And he also suffered from frequent bouts of kidney stones.
Yeah.
And he had claimed that he felt, all through the rest of his life, he had claimed that he felt like he'd been healed somehow by this experience, and he actually felt like he was resistant to illness afterwards. And yeah, the scarring on his lungs, which, had been there before, was gone.
Yeah.
And he never suffered from kidney stones again. Actually, this guy lived to be very old. Yeah. He only died in 2022 at the age of 91.
Oh, wow.
He passed away from complications from COVID.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally, if you've got scarring on your lungs,
that doesn't go away.
Your life expectancy is significantly reduced. Yeah. You generally aren't going to expect to live to see 91.
Yeah. And you wouldn't expect that to spontaneously heal. Like, the lungs don't work that way.
No.
Under normal circumstances. But the thing that gets me is, you see this comment from Carl in his own kind of reflection on these events of his life. And because he got the medical scan when he was there on Ausso-1's planet. Mm-hmm. And he was rejected. We don't know why. Carl theorizes that's because he had a vasectomy. And that maybe they were looking for genetic material from him for maybe breeding.
Yeah.
Who knows? That's him just kind of speculating.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, that just doesn't make sense, because how are they able to heal his kidney stones and scarring on his lungs but not reverse a vasectomy?
Yeah.
That just doesn't make sense.
That's a lot easier.
Right? So in my mind, that just says, well, that can't have been the reason, because that should, with the medical technology that he was witnessing, that should have been an easy fix.
I mean,
Right?
the scan, why he was rejected, why he's not what they're looking for, it could have been completely unrelated to any medical issue. Just genetically, he wasn't what they were looking for.
Yeah.
If they were capturing him for breeding stock, they were probably looking for a very specific type of human, a very specific genetic profile.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's where my mind goes as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Crazy. Just a bizarre story. I'm really glad we covered it. We're starting to get long. Like, let's start talking some theories. What do you think about all this?
I think it's a little hard to predict the motivations of these aliens.
Yeah.
If they do indeed exist. But I kind of lean towards they're capturing animals and people for breeding stock to eat them.
Yeah, that's kind of what it looks like on the surface, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
and
the casual kind of disregard for just, there's no regard for any semblance of what we would understand of human rights.
Yeah.
If you mentally manipulate someone, pluck them off the surface of their planet, haul them away, and just plop them back down on Earth. Very casual disregard. And yet they seem to treat them very cordially in the process.
Yeah.
So, but there's obviously a moral disconnect there of some kind.
Well,
maybe they really just look at us like food. Maybe these guys are like Predator, but without the scary movie Hollywood window dressing around it.
Yeah.
But people go missing in national parks everywhere.
Yeah. And
hundreds of thousands of people go
and
missing.
there are actually a lot of stories in history in this kind of southern Wyoming, northern Colorado region. So the alien abductions, A, cattle mutilations, B, and also the Shoshone people believed in a race of what they called little people, or Nimeragar, that lived in the mountains.
All right.
They were apparently quite like humanoids and vaguely the same size as humans, but very vicious. And they lived in the mountains, and they were to be feared. And actually, both the Shoshone tribe and the Cheyenne and the Arapaho and the Lakota, they all used this forest, this Medicine Bow National Park forest. It's called the Medicine Bow Forest because the Native Americans, they would actually go into this forest to harvest mahogany wood to make bows out of. That's what gives the forest its name. And they tell tales of encountering these little people. And actually, there's a really fascinating story that's probably worth its whole episode.
Okay, give it to us in a nutshell, in a 3-minute nutshell.
Have you ever heard of the Pedro Mountain Mummy?
No, not at all.
Okay, so this is like 60 miles southwest of Casper, Wyoming.
Okay.
In the 30s, these two prospectors found a mummy in a cave of this little humanoid creature that they couldn't identify. This was an actual mummy that actually existed, was actually looked at like, yes, this is an actual thing. It was actually on display for many years in some museum in Wyoming. And then it disappeared in the 50s after one of these prospectors that owned it died. The mummy was bought by a collector, and then it's disappeared.
Right. Cool.
So we can't
story.
do any kind of modern analysis or DNA testing on this mummy, but you can look up pictures of it online. It's just this tiny little creature.
Yeah.
It's just tiny. It's thought that it was one of these little people.
Yeah.
Probably a child, and it was found mummified in this cave, sitting in a cross-legged position by these two miners.
Oh, cool story. I like it.
It's probably worth a whole episode.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories like that, though. I mean, there's stuff from Peru like that, from all over, and some of them are pretty dubious, and some of them have been outright debunked.
This one has not been debunked.
But that's a cool story. I do like that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
that's a cool detail to add to this one. Well, we're coming right up on time. Do you have any final thoughts? Anything else we want to cover before we pull it up? I love that story. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's bizarre. It really makes me think. Like I love it because there is so much circumstantial evidence and detail around this. And if you ask me, his character holds up. He underwent several polygraphs.
Yeah.
He passed them all. I find him to be really credible as an experiencer. and his story is just so out there.
Yeah,
It's
so
so bizarre.
Carl Higdon, he tells such a fantastical story. And, a lot of stories get told about the oil field and how there's a lot of drug use in the oil field.
Yeah.
Like, we all know that. But, like, not Carl Higdon. He's described as a straight shooter. Actually, his friends and his coworkers gave him the nickname the Wyoming Coyote because of his just dogged determination to get the job done at all costs.
Right, yeah.
He was reliable, he was honest, he was a straight shooter. Everyone who knows him describes him as that.
And I mean, blood was taken when he was found, and I mean, this all happened in the same day. He went hunting in the afternoon. It was like 4 p.m. or whatever. He was recovered just before midnight, the same day. And his blood results came back clean. There was no drugs in his system, so you can't point to that either. So, yeah, really fascinating one. Really fascinating.
It's especially when you look at the pictures drawn of the alien, you think this is such a ridiculous story, but it's fascinating because the guy who tells it is
so down to earth.
He's a person that seems to have a lot of integrity, and this story's just so fascinating because it's one of the few with actual physical evidence that cannot be explained.
Yeah. Interesting. Something to think about. I'm really glad we covered it. This hour flew by. I think this is going to be a really fun episode.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, with that, if you don't have anything more, I think we'll just say thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us again for another week.
Like and subscribe.
Please help us out. Help us hit those targets we're looking for. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. Good night.
Good night.